So, the 10 best Grayling Flies that you probably never heard of. However, after watching this, I can more or less guarantee you're going to want to have them in your box. These are patterns that I've sort of accumulated over the years from certain individuals throughout my travels across the world basically, but mostly here in the UK. And all of these flies have a position in my box because they catch fish. And they catch fish on freestone rivers, limestone rivers and chalk streams, so they pretty much cover all the bases when it comes to targeting grayling. None of these are particularly complicated to tie. In fact, I'd say they're quite easy. The materials are very easy to get a hold of as well, so there's absolutely no worries on that front. The flies themselves work either on their own as part of a team. However, for me personally, I tend to fish my flies either in pairs or on a big river. I'll fish three, so I'll fish two in the dropper and one in the point. But point fly is often sacrificial, so these are fishing flies for above the point fly, if that makes sense. So let's dive in and look at the very first one of these 10 essential patterns. So right then, first up is this, an OA Cardis, orange Cardis. You get it because you can see where the orange is in the back. A really simple fly to tie, but one that's absolutely devastating for grayling on freestone rivers. A little background behind the fly. I'm not sure where I first seen this actually. However, I remember a session in the Grayling Festival in the Welsh Day, and me and Scott Nellens had the pool above the bridge pool, and I think between us we had 44 fish. 44 fish, most of them came at this fly. A really basic pattern, but one that works really well, and the key's that orange dubbin. This is a dubbin for full and mill. However, hens do an orange dubbin as well. The body's oh, what's it called? Lucian Valdez trout line, and it's called Mad Rabbit, so it's quite dark. And I've got a small, thin gold wire rib on that I use. An absolutely killer fly. This is a 400 BL. A size 14, I'll tie it in a 12 as well, but a really basic fly, but a basic fly that works wonders. I tend to have that on the top dropper if I'm fishing three flies, or again on the top dropper with something a little bit heavier on the point if I'm fishing double nymph. It'll work for trout as well, but as a grayling fly, this thing really excels. So that's number one on my grayling flies that you've probably never heard of, but after watching this, you're definitely going to want to have. Number two is this. So this is a lot bigger pattern. This is tied in a 10, sometimes a 12, sometimes an 8. Again, a jig hook. 400 BL for this one, and this is a 3.5 to 4mm copper bead. And this particular fly, I fish with my mate Lindsay Simpson and a guy called Del Spry. However, the fly originally comes from Graham Lumsden, who's sadly no longer with us. And one of the things with Graham's flies is he would use the minimal amount of materials and get the best out of that fly. This was originally black sheep's wool. This is a sheep's wool substitute, and I've got a bright orange, like a Spectra dubbing on there. But as you can see, ever so basic, but my God, does this thing catch fish. And it catches fish everywhere I've fished it. But again, this sort of came to fruition on the Welsh Day, fishing with Lindsay and fishing with Del. We did really well. We won it 1 year, and this is one of the flies that we won it well. I'll go into some detail on the other ones as well because those worked great. But that's it, mull killer, simple pattern, hook, bead, black wool body. This isn't wool. This is a semper fly dubbing. It's very similar. It's fibrous like wool, and we've got a Spectra, orange Spectra collar on that. That's the mull killer. That's number two. So next up, number three. Again, a really simple fly. When did I first see this? Probably 10 years ago. A really good fly tire. He's actually went over to pike fishing now. He doesn't like predator fishing. He's heading over to saltwater recently. Just a really good fly tire. A guy called Ewan Miller. And Ewan Miller had a fly called the Wasp. And this is my version of his Wasp. I tie it a lot smaller than him, probably because the rivers that I fish the grayling on is so big. He tends to fish up the Teviot in the Annan, so his is tied in a a 10 or a 12. This is tied on a 16 and it's a 3mm bead, just a normal tungsten bead. Now the way I tie this, my body's light Cahill with a black floss thread rib, so you can see the segmented effect. And then I just get a load of squirrel and deer hair mixed, and I create a collar with a dubbing loop. And this works tremendously well. For most rivers, to be fair, it just works everywhere. Everywhere I've fished, this thing works. Top dropper. Top dropper if you're fishing 2 flies. Top dropper if you're fishing 3. The Wasp. Ever so simple. Again, a handful of materials, but my God, is it effective. Just such a good fly. It really, really is. That's the Wasp. So that's number 3. Number 4 in these 10 flies. Great story behind this. So this is called the IND Dophin. And the key to IND Dophin is this stuff. It's a bright orange lace from a trainer. Ben Bannon gave me this. Ben Bannon came up with the fly, and I fish with Ben a lot. I fished in the Hanak competition, I fished in the Europeans, and I fished him in the EPP. Just a lovely guy. Comes up with some great fly patterns, and this is one of them. And the IND Dophin, the key to IND Dophin is this tag. What number would that be? 5 or 6 in the Globrite scale? But it's just a little bit of tag. It's hen 17, by the way. Hen 17 comes in so many different colours, it's unbelievable. But I found one colour that I really like, so I bought a whole load of this stuff. Hen 17. And the colour is a mix of CDC and hen 17 in a dubbing loop. And you've got a metallic pink bead in there. So that one's tied on a 400 BL, small size 14. The best hook for that is probably a 450 BL. A little bit more complex to tie this one, but my God, it's worth it, especially so on chalk streams. I find on chalk streams this thing is absolutely deadly. Just a really, really good fly. That's number 4. Nearly 3, not 3, 4. Let's go on to number 5. So number 5 is a new one, and it's a walt. It's based on a waltz worm pattern. It's basically a hare's ear. All you American boys, listen, forget it, it's a hare's ear. But we'll say this is a waltz worm, and I tie this with a purple synthetic from Full and Mill. It's a really good dubbing. It's very similar to Spectra. And I've got a pink medium wire rib. And the key to this is Glow Bright number 8. There's something about Glow Bright number 8, and we'll go on to that on other flies, that really, really makes a difference to your fly pattern. But this purple and mustard mix really works well on the larger freestone rivers that I fish. This is a new one that I came up with. However, what I can say is it definitely works where I've fished it. It really does. It's quite a big fly. So you've got a 3.5mm silver bead there, and that's a size 12 BL 400. So that's a big hook, a really big hook, and it's a meaty proposition for any grayling, but it really, really works. There's a few flies I've seen with purple that seem to work. We'll look at another one in a wee minute, but that's number 5 in this compilation. So number 6 is a simple little thing. It's basically a dark hare's ear. This is Mad Rabbit, so it's really quite dark. I've got a gold ribbon there, and I've got a little tuft of CDC in the tail. The head's the key. It's a shell pink with a shell pink thread behind it as a collar, and I use that for sight fishing. I use it for sight fishing on chalk streams, and I use it for sight fishing up on the Wye in Bakewell. There's a particular stretch of the Wye in Bakewell where there's some really big brown trout and rainbow trout. You stick an nymph in there and they'll snaffle on it, so you need a fly that you can see and manoeuvre into position. And this pink bead, for some reason, white doesn't work as well. I tried it with white bead, but this baby pink bead, you can manoeuvre it into position. So for sight fished fish, this one's an absolute cracker. Again, very simple tie like most of these flies are. This one's tied in a 14, 400 BL. You can tie it in smaller sizes, however you need to change the bead to suit. I find this size works for anything. It can actually be fished in a team of 3 or a team of 2 as well. So that's my baby pink or shell pink hare's ear. Great fly for sight fishing. What number? 6. So number 7, this is another one for Ben Bangham, and it's one of his favourite flies. It has been going for a long, long time. Ben and I fished the River Test at Wherewell Christ, 100 years ago, and we were fishing this thing. It's when he first came up with it. It's called the Pig Doglet, and it's a glow bright number 2, pink tail, a light hare's ear body, a copper rib, and you've got a mix of CDC and Hens 19, which is like this really, really light pink, and that's mixed with CDC as a collar, as a dubbing loop. Again, metallic pink bead. Something about metallic pink and grayling, but a simple fly to tie. Best hook for this is a 450 BL and a size 14, maybe a size 16, depending on the river you're fishing. For a freestone river, go for the bigger sizes. For a chalk stream, limestone, or if you're sight fishing, go 16, maybe even an 18. A really simple fly, that one, but one that works wonders. What's that we've got now? 7, number 7. So I'm just getting this out here. So this is number 8. This is a new fly to me, but I've tried it and it works. So this is for Jan de Haas, who ties a lot of trout flies. This is a Grayling one that I really like, and he calls it the Purple Bomber. So it's a purple bead, 3.5mm, and I tie this one on a big hook. This is a size 12 check nymph hook for full and mill. You've got a really light hare's ear body there with a copper rib, but you can see that CDC caught in a loop is the hackle. Now this Purple Bomber, like pink, purple holds a fascination for Grayling. I kind of figure it out. It's like trout with orange. Grayling, for some reason, purple and pink really seems to make a difference. This fly in particular, point fly, if you're fishing 2 flies, or top dropper if you're fishing a bomb and a point, something smaller further up, but they will pick this out. I love the way the CDC, in most of these flies, the way that CDC traps bubbles. It just seems to do something to the fly. When it's pulled or it's wet and it cloaks the fly perfect. So there you go, Purple Bomber. What's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 2 to go. By the way, these are in no particular order. I'll show you my favourites, my top 3 after this. So, we're now on to number 9. And this is a version of another great angler's fly. This is the version that I like, and I fish it on the bung. So this is Phil Dixon, or the Dixons. I believe it's the Dixons. It's a fly called the Pixie, and it's a hare's ear mix. And mind what I says to you earlier on about that glow bright number 8. So it's got glow bright number 8 ribbed, and then you've got a big glow bright number 8 colour. Now what I tend to do is I do single wraps of glow bright number 8. You can double it so it's thicker, it's really noticeable. However, I like that. I prefer it with a little bit thinner. Now the reason for the inclusion with the orange bead, for some reason this fly on the bung, fished on the bung, don't get me wrong, it works when you're nymphing. I much prefer to fish this fly on the bung. There's something about that orange bead that draws the fish in. And the hook as well is really important. So you're looking for a check nymph hook, thin, so thin wire. This is a 14 and it's a 3mm bead, and you want that needle sharp hook when you're fishing the bung. So as soon as you get that take, you bury the hook. So that's the Pixie, or that's my version of the Pixie. Just a great fly, and it works wherever you fish for Grayling. Number 9. So we're now on to number 10, the final fly. What you'll have noticed with the majority of these flies is just how simple they are, apart from the dub and loop stuff. And this is, it doesn't get much more simple than this, and this actually catches trout as well. So the original fly was a fly called Tam's Bug. One of my friends up in Scotland, a guy called Tom McLeish, he tied these flies with fox squirrel, based on a fox squirrel nymph. However, he tied them on curved hooks for the Grayling up in the River Tweed. I never had fox squirrel back then, but I did have this sort of olivey, I didn't even know what it was back then. I want to say seals for it, but I'm not sure it was, but it was like a light olive. It's hard to explain the colour. Anyway, it was like an olivey colour, so I tied it with a gold rib. Tied them on gold hooks originally, and a black thorax cover. 3mm bead. This is a grub hook. Any grub hook will do. I prefer gold, if I'm honest. But I never had any gold hook, so we rattled it up on this. So this is, we'll call this Tam's Bug. it's like a variation on a variation on a variation, just like most trout flies. But my God, what a fly that is. So that's number 10. That's our 10 Grayling flies that you've probably never heard of, but after watching this, I more or less guarantee you'll want them in your box. So that's the top 10 flies. However, let me go walk you through my top 3. So number 1, I might actually be able to show you these. Let me get a little pointer. Number 1 would be Tam's bug, that little olive number. What a fly that is. Just a simple pattern, but one that works everywhere the world over. Wherever I've fished it, it works really, really well. Number 2 are these little OA Cardises, orange arse Cardises. Again, a really simple pattern, but Christ almighty, it's so effective. So easy to tie, but the amount of grayling that'll pick up in your day's fishing is quite astounding. So third up is the Dolphin. A great story behind this. So we were fishing in the Europeans over in the Czech Republic, and Ben found this lace in a shop, shoelaces, either in the airport or when we were shopping in the Czech Republic, I forget. Anyway, he came up with a fly, the Dolphin, and we tied a load up and we passed them out to everybody. We had a guy fishing with us, a guy called Harry Fox, just a genuinely lovely boy, good fisherman, but a lovely, lovely guy. And he was new to that level of competition, but he was just a great guy to have anyway. We dished these flies out, and we came back and we were sort of comparing notes at night, and Harry pulled out which is now the Dolphin. He says, that fly is unbelievable. There's something about it. It does something to the fish. It releases endorphins in their brain. Everybody just paused, looked at him. Endorphins, the chemicals, when they get excited, they release these endorphins in their brain. Well, obviously that was it. From then on in, it was called the Dolphin. And it has been ever since then. That's 2018. But what a fly it is. So, there you go. A little story behind it as well. I really hope you enjoyed that, folks. The 10 best, probably the best Grayling flies. Sorry, the 10 best Grayling flies you've probably never heard of. However, after watching this, I'm sure you'll want to have them in your box. I really hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please be kind enough to subscribe. Take care. Bye-bye.